All right, now that we have the home page done, we're going to move to the about page. And the first thing that we're going to do is make some fast changes. For instance, we're going to change this word home to about. We're going to make this color change for the home. We're going to change the title of the page, and then we're going to get rid of this content that was in our home page because we need to add the about page content. So let's get started doing that. So the first thing that we need to do is I'm going to save this index file. Now, if you remember, all of our files, let me close this down real quick. Let me close this one too. Remember, in our links, we already created our file name. So we're going to create one called about HTML. One thing you can do is hit File, Save As, or you can hit Command or Control S, and that's Save As, and we're just going to say About HTML. And you'll notice that nothing changed except for the name of our file, About HTML. Now let's change some things in here first. In the title, we don't want it to be home anymore. We want it to be about. Okay, so we fix that because it's the about page. Next is the active link. And if you remember, that class that we put on made the home button be like that pinkish color, and we want the about button to be that pinkish color, or active link. Okay, so that's the two right here. And the third one that I mentioned is we're going to change the side text, the one that's vertical up and down, from home to about. And make sure you use capital letters for that. Now let's preview this page and see what it looks like. So as you see, we have the same content in the middle of the page, but the about text is changed. This about link is pink, or whatever color that is, salmon or whatever. But if we hover over or go back to home, notice how home is active and the about is active. So those are the three areas that we wanted to change. Now let's get this content area changed to match our about page. In the about page, you'd probably want to lay this out again on a sketch pad, but I'm going to do this for time's sake for this video. But I've already done this and laid it out on my sketch. One thing is, if you see a redundancy of things, for instance, we have an image, we have the title and description. Down here we have an image, title, and description. These are identical. If we look at the products page, image, title, and description. So these are the same things. So we need to create a class where all we have to do is change the words in here, and it changes with our content. Okay? So, or changes with our page, but still looks identical. So we're going to create a class, and we're going to put a div in here, and then there's going to be a div for the image, and then a div for this content over here as well. All right, so let's get busy doing that. So I'm in my about page. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my style sheet because I need that. And I want to look at the owner image because that's the one we're starting with. And you'll notice that this is a really big image, and you probably would want to optimize it again, but we're going to show you a different way, or I'm going to show you a different way that you can put this image in there. I'm going to add this style, put it on another page here, close down our project so we have more room. And this is the home page, and remember, I've already taken it off, but this is the home page content. Now, we want this content container to always be centered the way we had it. I just don't want these two paragraphs in there. So we're going to remove those two paragraphs. So now if we go back and look at our about page, there's nothing there. Okay, let's get something in there. Now, remember, I said that we are going to have a div that contains all three of these objects in here. Then we're going to have a div for the image with an image inside of it. And then we're going to have a div with the H4 and the paragraph. Let's go get that structured. So in here, I'm going to make a div, right? And that div is going to hold all three of these. And I wanted to call this, maybe image, title, and call it description. That's the class. That's going to hold it all. And then inside of there, if you remember, we're going to have a div that holds the image. and we're going to call it image holder. And inside of that image holder was that image of that owner, right? So we're going to go to images and we're going to put owner in there. And I'm just going to put in the alt text. Outside of the image holder, however, we're going to create another div. And this one's going to be called title descript. And if you remember correctly, inside of, excuse me, I keep scrolling that, inside of there, we're going to have an H4, and it's going to be called the owner. And underneath it, we're going to have a paragraph, right? And I'm just going to copy that paragraph that was in there and paste it. I'm going to close down this paragraph so we have more room. Okay. Let me save that file, and now we can close it down. Now let's take a look at this and see what it looks like. You'll notice the image is extremely large and the text is underneath it. Now we're going to fix this by putting display flex on a couple things. Okay, so back over in my code. Remember, all of this stuff right here was for the home page. And we're going to start creating it for the about. So I'm going to go right underneath the home because we're in the second target. So home was first, now about. Okay, we already have the content container. All right, now you can get very compound selector and copy these and put those in there if you want to. But one thing, just for this video, I would do that normally is put compound selectors. But for this video, in the sake of room, I am just going to copy the image title description, and that's what we're going to work with here. Okay, now you got to remember that all of this should be in front of this, but it would start getting too long. All right, so image title description. Right, so that holds all of this, and basically the only thing that we want to do inside of here is put display flex for the children. And if we look and see what that did, you'll notice that it lined up the image and the owner and text. So it took those two divs, okay, and put them side by side. Now let's fix the image side. So we're going to do image title description, and then we're going to target the image holder. And if we look over at the XD file, you'll notice that this image is actually 224 by 224. So we can put height 224 and width 224. And if we take a look at this now notice what happens. We're targeting this image holder that has the image. Let's see what it looks like. Now you'll notice that the H1 and the paragraph moved over, but the image still looks the same. But really underneath it, this div is really 224 by 224. The image just overflows outside of that div, so the image is just doing what it wants. So let's fix the overflow issue. So we're going to do overflow hidden. And what that means is that anything that's outside of that div is now going to be hidden. So there it is right there. Now let's get the image to, show up the way we want to. Instead of getting another class, I just move it down here, and we're going to target the actual image element. And all I want is the width of that to be 100%, and we want the height to be auto. Now, the reason why we don't want the height to be 100% is because the picture is more portrait, so it's taller than it is wide. And if we would make these both 100%, the image now would be 224 by 224, which would make our picture look really weird. Okay, but by only setting one, it will set the width of this image to 224, and then the height will constrain the proportion, so it will still be taller. Let's look at that. So you'll notice it still looks fine. It's cut off underneath here because the image is actually, taller, and we need to move this image up. But first, let's go ahead and make it rounded. Now the image holder, or the div that surrounds the image, is what we need to make round, and we do that by putting border radius, And border radius is actually shorthand. It takes 4, top left, top right, bottom left, 4 values. We can actually just put in 1 and make all the corners 50% in, and you'll see what this looks like. And now we've made a perfect circle. If you did something like this, it'll make the top, okay, remember, top left, this is the top right, and then the next two would be bottom right and bottom left. Let's see what happens now. And you can make some cool looking designs by changing those, right? So that looks kind of cool, but we're going to make it just like the XD file, which is here. Now let's move this image up and get it in line. We're going to go back here and we can do that inside of the image, and we're going to say margin top, and let's do a negative of like 50 pixels and see if we get somewhere close to what that should look like. And it's pretty close. It moved her hair up to about the top. If you look at the XD file, her hair is right at the top, so you could probably go just a little bit more if you wanted to. Say negative 60 pixels, and there it is. Now let's focus on moving this over here on the right hand side. The image in the XD had some room here, right? Some room in between those two. So let's go ahead and get that worked out. And that would be up here in the image holder. We're going to tell it, hey, look, I need some room on the right side of me, and I want that to be about 50 pixels. And there we have some room right there. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is get this, the owner part, moved down. And if you remember correctly, the owner starts right here in title description. Okay, so we're going to come down here and we're going to target the title dash description. And we're going to put margin top. And we want to bring that down maybe like 60 pixels. Let's see where that gets us. Okay, now you'll notice that it brought it down and it's right about eye level. And if we look at the XD, that's right about eye level as well. Now let's change this because it might change where it needs to be. This is Roboto 30 salmon color and italic. In our code somewhere, I know we have all of those right here up at the top. Let's grab those in the logo. We're going to move back down here. Notice we're in the title description. And now we need to move to the owner though in the H4 to change that. So title description, H4, and paste. Now the bad thing is that it's already bold because it's an H4, but we do need it italics. And I'm going to put style here, and then we're going to put italic. Now let's go look at what it looks like. As you notice, the owner is looking like it should. It's about eye level. It could come up just a little bit, and our text is moving down. So let's come over and we'll change it. Maybe it needs to be maybe more 50. And that puts us up about eye level. That's perfect. Now we need this paragraph to be shrunken down just a little bit. And I want to point out something. Up here on the home page, we targeted the paragraph tags inside of our content container, which is right here. You'll notice that this paragraph tag, even though it's in title description, it really is inside of that content container. So by putting width 513 on that paragraph tag, that means that every paragraph tag inside of content container would be 513, which means that in this title description, this paragraph tag is going to have a width on it as well. So one thing you could do is either put a new class for those, or again, you target that paragraph tag. And we're going to target the paragraph tag that's inside of there, and we could put width, and let's put 300 pixels and see what happens. Okay, and you'll notice that nothing really changed in this one right here. So, hit saved in the wrong one. So I'm just going to go back and let's put background colors on here just to see what is going on. I'm going to put this first one as blue. And the title description area, let's target that as well. And brown. And let's see what everything looks like. Now you'll notice that here, this is all contained within itself. So let's change some stuff, okay? So we're going to go here and notice that the width is 100% of that image. The holder, we're not worried about. The title description that's inside of it doesn't have a width. Okay, so let's see what happens if we make this paragraph be a little bit smaller and see if it changes any. Okay, so now you notice that we're not changing anything on the inside of this. Okay, and you'll notice that it's in title description and there is a paragraph. Okay, what happens though if we change it up here where the paragraph is targeted and then we change it to like 300 here, and let's see if that looks different. Okay, so it definitely is making some changes up here at the top. And I wanted to prove to you that that this one down here is definitely getting overridden, right? So the one that we set the H4 and in the title and the paragraph, title description, and in the paragraph is getting overridden by the one up on the top. So how can we fix that? Well, we're going to have to change this and let's add a class and call this description, okay, itself. And in this paragraph tag over here, we're just going to add a class of that description. All right, and here it is. The next thing we're going to do is change this paragraph tag up here to the top, and we're going to change it to something different. And we're going to add something like home content, and which would mean that if we added home content there, we need to move it here as well. So it's then its first child, and then we need to open up our home page, which is the index, and which is right here, and we need to go down here, and in the paragraph tags we need to put class of home content and class of home content. Oop. There we go. Now let's go preview this and see if anything's changed a little bit. Now you'll notice now we're at 200, so that works. Let's see if our home page changed or what it looks like, and you'll notice that it's back to looking exactly the same as what it was. So everything's working great. We just need to make our about page in this description just a little bit wider. So we're going to say like 350. Okay, and we're going to go back to our home page or about page, and now we're about right. Notice there's 3 words here, and if we go look at our XD, there's 3 words down at the bottom, and notice that where that lorem is about where the bottom is. So let's go look, and where the lorem, that's right here, so we've changed it just a little bit, is roughly not at the bottom. It's probably that lorem is close. But let's take the background colors off and just see if it's starting to look anywhere close to what we need it to look like. So there was that description, and we removed the brown. And now this looks pretty close to our XD file. Okay, it might be pushed down a little bit more. There might be a little bit more gap in here. Okay, so you can fix that by adding margin top to this area. Okay, and that's this description. Okay, you can add margin top to this one, which is the paragraph, or you can add a margin bottom to the H4. And we can say something like, it's already 16, we can move maybe 25. Okay, and it moves it down just a little bit. And we can actually add more if you needed to, like 45. And you'll note it puts a little gap, more gap in there. And that looks pretty close to the way it should be. All right, I'm going to say it's 35 actually and move it back. Now that we have that done, this is how easy it is to add the next. So notice that we added one div that holds all of these. We've got the image looking exactly the way we need it. The owner's working, the paragraph or the description's working the way we need it. It's centered on the page. Now, over in our XD file, we have the co-owner. Okay, let's see how easy it is to create that. I'm going to close my style down because I don't need that anymore. Open this up. And inside of here, all I need to really copy is this image title description div, which should come down to right about there. Okay, now make sure you get the exact one. Okay, and if you want, you can close it down and then copy it. And right underneath it, you're going to paste it again. And the only thing you're going to change in here is just the images. So images, and you want co-owner this time, and make sure you change this to co-owner. Okay, and then we want, what do they have? The co-owner, and I'm going to copy this. So the, and then co-owner. Okay, and then I'm going to change the paragraph text. And now if we go look at this, it should look exactly the way we want it. Oh no, we got something wrong. Well, it looks somewhat close, right? There and there. But now we have a problem with this container not working. And that's because display flex moves things in a row, and we want this to be in a column. Well, can we fix that? Well, I'm just going to minimize this. So here's our two image title description, right? And then we have image title description, so we have two. And both of these are in that content container. Now we don't want to mess around with that content container because it already manages the home stuff. But can we make it change a little bit? Can we do something else? Yes, we can. So I'm going to open up the styles. And if you remember correctly, all we have to do is, here's this content. It already has display flex on it. What if we needed, just a class, and we say, and we call it column. And the only thing in this column, it's just going to say flex direction, column. Okay, so now since this already has the display flex on it, we're just going to add this class to this content container and do it afterwards, because now this is display flex, and now we're going to use a flex property, which is column. And now let's see what happens to our content. And now you'll notice that they're stacked on top of each other. And we can start doing a few things, that'll make this look better. One is, this is right up against the top hero. In our XD file, it is not. Okay, so also there's a little bit more space in here. So in our hero, right here in this column, we can add some things or add another class. So let's say that down here, right before image title description, we say, about margin, and we're just going to put a margin top. Now there's other ways to do this. I'm just showing you how to add more classes to do what you want to do. And that's all I'm trying to do here. So we're going to say it's about 60 pixels. Give that some room there. And now if we put about margin, and then we put about margin top on this container, okay, which is actually this container wrapper. Let's see what happens. Notice it got pushed down a little bit. And now all we have to do is change that to like 90 or make it 100. And this probably would need to be margin top, about margin top. Okay, I'm going to save that. I'm going to go over here, and this should be top. Change that real quick. And you'll notice it got pushed down. And the next thing we're going to do is add just a little bit of margin top or bottom, okay, which probably bottom, to this one. And we're going to go back to our styles, and that is the actual, where are we at here? Image title description. Okay, that's each one of those. We're going to say margin bottom. And let's do a margin bottom of about 50 pixels just so you can see. And you'll notice that it added space here and then added space down here. So now as you're looking at it, now we have this area and this area looking identical, and we can do this in the products page very easily. So let's move on to that page and see how easy it really is.